Welcome back, everybody, to the Seniors and Money podcast. My name is Brigitte Brobbey. I am the project coordinator for Scale Up Financial Empowerment. Here we are today for our 7th episode. We have a very, very lucky guest here. Actually, we're the lucky ones, to be honest. We have a multifaceted individual, very talented individual, someone who is highly passionate about their line of work. They are an author, they are an AI specialist, an investment specialist, and above all of that, to a family man. We know Perry Douglas from Brian and Cadell. So Brian being our social entrepreneur and also an interviewer for past episodes that we've had here, and Cadell, who is the president of the Multicultural Diversity Project. They grew up together here in Montreal, and we are lucky to have him on today to pick his brain. So both you and I, the audience and I, are going to be lucky to pick Perry's brain and see what his passion is all about. So Perry, like I said, you grew up in Montreal, but you were actually born in Grenada. So let's start there. We want to really do a bottom-up model, and we'll get back into that. That's an
Sure.
insight, but we're going to get back into that
Sure.
as well. So you grew up
No
in
problem.
Grenada, and you immigrated here in Montreal. So
Yes.
let's get started on what led you here.
Well, I immigrated here when I was 6 years old. What led me here is my parents
Mm-hmm.
that brought me here. At first, my parents were living in New York, but they didn't want to grow me up in New York, so they moved to Montreal. I moved to Montreal. I grew up on the Carrie, Côte Saint Luc area, north of Queen Mary. Went to Van Horn Elementary School. Went to Westmount High School, Vanier College, and then McGill University. And after McGill, um, I moved to Toronto to start working in the investment business. So yeah, that's pretty much it in regards to you know how I came to Canada and Montreal. I knew Brian Cadell. I knew Cadell. He lived in the building next door. He was really good friends with my younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he was next door, and knew his dad, knew his mom. And with Brian, we played baseball. I
Right.
played for McDonald Park, and Brian played for Terrebonne. I think Brian was a catcher. I think he was a catcher and a first baseman. He multitasked, I guess.
That's interesting.
So that's how. Yeah, yeah.
When I spoke to Brian, he made sure to make me ask you about your sports that you grew up playing,
Mm,
and the discipline that may have
mm,
also taught you, and that you probably still have to this
yeah,
day. I'm pretty sure that you do have
yeah,
to this day. So can you speak a little bit more also about
yeah.
that?
Sure. Sports was a major part of my life. My mother made sure that we were involved in sports. So, like I said, I played baseball for a while. I was pretty good at it. But when I went to Westmount High School, I got introduced to basketball, and I played basketball at Westmount High School. I was good at basketball at Westmount High. Then I went to Vanier to play basketball there at Sage. And from there, I played basketball and football while I was at McGill. I also played basketball for the Canadian national basketball team, which is a great opportunity for me because it allowed me to travel the world. I saw Asia, Europe. I think I played for about 3 years or so. So basketball was really, really good, and sports, as you said, helped me with discipline, and that's one of the reasons too. All my three kids has played sports. My oldest daughter, played tennis and volleyball. My son played hockey. He was a really good AAA hockey and golf. And my youngest daughter, who's actually in her second year at McGill now, Asia, she did judo. If I can brag a little bit,
Of course.
Asia, yeah, Asia is the all-time multiple national champion in judo. So the
Wow.
multiple Canadian national judo champion in multiple. So 16 under, 18 to 21, and senior division. So she fought as a teenager. She fought grown women, and she won 8 national championships. She won a silver medal at the Pan Am Junior Games, and she won a gold medal
Come on.
also at the Pan Am Junior Games. Yeah, so she's pretty good. But the beautiful thing about it is that she said, "Dad, judo is great, but she had an opportunity to. She was Canada, at least in my opinion, she was Canada's best chance for a gold medal in judo in this upcoming Olympics. I think it's in Paris, but she's like, nah, nah, excuse me, I'm going to university because there's no future. There's no future in judo, and I
Mm.
was happy that she chose to go to McGill. My son also went there too. So yeah, so sports leads to discipline and focus, and I did it. Work. It helped me in business, and my kids are doing it, so it's helping them in life also.
Congratulations to your daughter. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's a great passion. And this
yeah,
discipline is something that is taught at a very young age. So I can see why you're
hmm
instilling discipline at a young age
hmm
to your children. I think for me
hmm
too, growing up as an African young child, the
hmm
last born in my family, if there's one thing that my parents have
hmm
always taught me, it's to work hard. I did not grow
hundred
up
percent.
necessarily playing sports, but I played music for almost 10 years. I played different
Yep.
types of instruments, and it helped me
Yeah.
get better at math. It helped me, practice,
Yes.
practice. It's honestly a question of practice. Sometimes it's not necessarily having talent. It's because you work hard. You get up early in the morning,
100%.
and that's where talent also develops over time. So I appreciate
Yep.
you sharing that. That's an
No
important
problem. No
it's an
problem.
important reminder for people who have different hobbies, different passions, different interests. If you don't have the
Yes.
talent, it's okay. Get up in the morning, journal,
Yep.
go for your walks, listen to
hmm
your podcasts, and keep that grind
Yep.
going on.
And the thing about it, it's not about talent. I always tell my kids,
It never,
talent doesn't win.
it never, yeah,
It's the hard work, discipline, and focus. That's what wins all the time. And
absolutely.
I would 100% say that.
So when it comes now, let's tie this back all into your line of work now,
hmm
because you are obviously a scholar. You're someone who went to school, who studied academically, and you're obviously a smart man. From for getting the chance to read some of your articles, you are
hmm
intelligent. You have deep thinking, very insightful, and you draw very interesting links that I had a pleasure of reading. I don't get the chance to read that many cerebral articles like that. So that's why I'm very happy
Yeah.
to get to pick your brain today. So again, here, your line of work and your expertise.
Yes.
Can you speak on that, please?
Yeah. It's very diverse. So, when I was in university, I studied, political science and history and a little bit of economics. And when I left McGill, I was always an avid reader. I love to learn. When I left McGill, I came to Toronto and I went into the investment business. So I applied to several firms, got offers from every one of them, and I chose to work for RBC
Mm-hmm.
Dominion Securities. So RBC Wealth Management today. I worked there for quite a while. Maybe 10 years or something, or probably even more. I can't remember now. But at that point in time, I essentially, the job was as an investment advisor. You get clients to invest their money from a long term perspective, retirement. So I got a lot of, experience there. From there, I went over to AIC, and I worked with Black Canadian billionaire Michael Lee Chin at AIC, and I was senior vice president over at AIC, and my job was to build a business called AIC Private Portfolio Group. So I got a lot of experience working with AIC. I spent a few years there, and then I went over to UBS, which really was the top of the top of an investment firm. So UBS really, it's a Swiss um, Swiss banking investment giant, one of the biggest in the world, if not maybe Citibank or something might be bigger, but UBS is a top investment company. So I did that for a while. I was in 2008, I was the number one advisor in Canada on what they call the all factor rankings. So on the all factor rankings, essentially, client service,
Mm-hmm.
return on their investments, assets, that type of thing. And I really learned a lot about investment. I learned a lot about how wealth is created. When you manage your money for rich people, you learn a lot, right? So I was able to learn a lot. And then, fast forward, I wanted to become an entrepreneur, so I left there, and I created a business called Beyond Luxury Vacations, where essentially, you know, I was trying to sort of Airbnb for the villa business
Okay.
in the Caribbean, and then I started another business which was Tri-Caribbean Energy, which is essentially a solar installation, um, you know, for in the Caribbean region. Just fast forward, just so to get it all in in 2008, not 2008, in 2020, um, I realized, technology and particularly AI is revolutionizing the world. And oftentimes, your success is not based on, you know, a great idea or even a great business, but it's being in a great sector, being in an
Right.
industry that's on the move, right? So, if you're in a business that is exponentially growing and taking off and expanding, your business idea has an opportunity to succeed because you're in a revolutionary, new growth business. So my company is called Douglas Blackwell, and
Yes.
essentially what we did, or what we do actually, is we use data science, artificial intelligence to build strategies for individuals, corporations, whoever. And right now we're building software which is called 6AI in order to do that really, really fast via software. So what I'm trying to do via 6AI is I'm trying to empower people, anybody, to build their own strategy, whether it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation looking to build a strategy for growth or whatever, or an individual who is looking to build a strategy for whatever their mental health, well-being. We're building a mode for students,
Hmm.
build a strategy for students to plan their career, think about the courses they need to, and think about what the future looks like. So if the future looks like this, then you should build your academic career to go into the future, as opposed to taking courses that's based on the past. So 6AI technology is based on my model that I created, mathematical model that I created, called applied intelligence. So we
Okay.
like to call it the rail AI for applied intelligence in small cap, because the whole basis of this is that information and things are not worth anything if they can't be applied.
Right.
So when you have an idea or whatnot, how do you apply it in order for your success? So again, as you can see, I encompass finance and technology,
You do.
right? And finance and technology does run the world. So I want to be in
Yes,
a
sir.
space where I have a say, I have a voice, as opposed to being somebody. I want to help build the future and design the future. I just don't want to participate in the future.
Okay. And why is that?
Well, from a perspective, lately, let's look at it this way. For example, since George Floyd,
Hmm.
ev- you know, everybody has been talking about, black wealth creation, intergenerational wealth
Hmm.
creation. There's been a lot of organizations formed, um, you know, to help with that. But at the end of the day, everything does come down to entrepreneurship. In order for you to create wealth, you have to have a business. And if you think about it this way, if you have a business, you can, and you create some wealth, you can send your kids to school,
Yes.
you can help them, start a business, you can invest in them. And then what that does is that passes down opportunity to your kids. And hopefully, the more wealthy people you have in your community, that expands into your community. And I was at an event yesterday, and I was having a discussion. Well, we were having a sort of a discussion, and one person who's a black person in the senior level at a major Canadian bank was talking about he got his son an internship at that particular bank, and we were talking, you know that's how it's done, right? He was saying that, well, at first I was thinking maybe he should do it himself, I shouldn't help him. So I turned around and said, why not? right? How do you think the white guys do it? Right? How do you think this happens? Don't be fooled. It's not about merit or anything. It's about connections. What school do they go to? What private school do they go to? What university do they go to? And these connections happen. So unless you're in a position of power, unless you have some equity, right? Once you have equity, you have power, and you can exercise that power via your wealth and your equity. If you don't have that, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Mm.
So you have to understand the world is a function of the power that you have, and the power that you have is a function of the economics that you create for yourself,
This
right?
is
And
very
that's the reason why
powerful.
I'm trying to create that economics for myself.
This what the
Yeah.
conversation that you had with this black individual is something that I often sometimes hear in the black community. You'll get an
Hmm.
opportunity, you'll get something cool to do, you'll get a scholarship, you get to move away, but then it's kind of
Hmm.
like everything falls on your shoulders, like figure it out by yourself.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
not something that other cultural communities tend to do. They tend to really
Correct.
be hand
Correct.
in hand. And this is something I sometimes often hear from my parents is like when something happens, keep it to yourself, keep it hush, do it on your own. And for some reason I think mentally it gives them more respect to give to the other person that
Hmm.
they were able to kind of get it out by
Hmm.
themselves. But that's not really how things,
Hmm.
if we really want to propulse ourselves as a community, we really have to be hand in hand. So I appreciate that
100%.
you were able to kind of intervene with that individual and let them know that, hey, this is not a, it's not a merit, it's not a merit thing. It's
No,
really,
it's not a merit. It's not a,
it's a
yeah,
village thing. It's a
yeah,
community thing. It has to be community
yeah,
based. So that's very interesting. And
100%.
this leads me to ask, when it comes to the businesses that you've built over the years here and the
Hmm.
business that you have currently, your company,
Hmm.
how much were you inspired by your birthplace, by the Caribbean? Seems like you tend to go back to where you come from, which is a
Yeah,
very important thing to
yeah,
do.
yeah, 100%. So, I was born in Grenada, small island,
Mm-hmm.
and but my mother kept us tied to that, going back for trips or whatnot. So because I had that Caribbean background, and even here in Canada, my Caribbean background, my aunts and uncles, I have that. So what I tried to do, I started, tried to start businesses in the Caribbean, in the region,
Mm-hmm.
because the only way for the Caribbean to break its dependency on the West is to create wealth themselves. The problem with the Caribbean, you can't grow if your only source of exports are, commodities, right? And commodities, the price of commodities are controlled by pretty much by the West in
Yes.
regards to the prices that they set. So you can't create any wealth through commodities. You have to create wealth through actual businesses. And if you want to grow an export based economy, you have to create businesses, and you have to create a strong middle class, right? So at the end of the day, the reason why I try to do so much in the Caribbean is I realize, or I know, that the Caribbean can't prosper, Black people can't prosper, unless they are self-sustainable, and they
Yes.
can break the dependency, and they can achieve that economic, self-determination. So that's why I try, to help to build businesses, to create that wealth, and to explain to people that at the end of the day, I say this all the time: life is not a morality play, right? It's a power play,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it comes down to economics. And if you understand that, you know, your journey in the universe is going to be a lot more easier or fruitful, because you understand how the real world works.
I like that. It's not an aspect of morality. It's more so about power. Reading your
Correct.
article, I am Ghanaian, so I really appreciated
Yes.
you putting in Nana Akufo-Addo's speech that he made
Yes.
at the summit or the
Yes.
conference that he was at.
Great speech. Great speech.
Great speech. It made me feel proud to be Ghanaian amongst other things. Uh,
Hmm.
but his plea was stop being beggars.
Yes.
Ghana, I can't remember if this is still of current, but this was in the last couple years where we have, anyways, women are the leading business owners in Ghana. A lot of women
Hmm.
are building businesses, either it be food, clothes, or
Hmm.
exports, imports,
Hmm.
whatever. We're really
Hmm.
leading. It's specific for women.
Hmm.
And I want to really delve into this now in this part of our conversation.
Sure.
This bottom to top model, I think, is
Yes.
revolutionary. As a people, as Black people, it is very important for us to be self sufficient, self reliant, to be able to call on our
Yep.
other brother, on our other sister for help, for this, for that.
Hmm.
I would like for you to speak more about this and speak about financial
Yeah.
literacy when it comes to the Black community, either it be in Toronto or either it
Yeah.
be in Grenada and in
Yeah.
Ghana, or also here in Montreal specifically. How important is financial literacy, and why do we have to keep pushing and
Yeah.
promoting it so that we can build these businesses that
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yeah. So I'm going to start by saying your analysis in terms of Black women in Ghana being essential business leaders. It's true in Ghana. It's true all over Africa, and even in the Caribbean. You see, a lot of Black women, even from a marketplace perspective, and
Yes.
whether it's fruits, vegetables, or whatnot. Black women have carried a significant amount of the load in terms of for blacks altogether.
All together.
And I think a lot, we don't give Black women enough credit. To be quite honest with you, I would say if it wasn't, well, obviously there's only two, Black male and women. Well, now today, people
Mhm.
identify differently, so I respect that. But at the end of the day, Black women have done a tremendous amount from an economic perspective
Yes.
and taking care of children, right? So when you take a look at it, the Black woman is going out there and they're getting things done from an economic perspective, and they're picking up the slack for where Black men have failed, in my opinion, right? So we cannot we cannot underestimate the contribution and the continued contribution of Black women altogether. So, you know, having said that, um, from a financial literacy perspective, it's important for us to understand finance, and it's important to understand economics on a fundamental level. I, you know, what's important is to, if you understand economics and if you understand how the world works, and if you understand the things that you want,
Mm.
comes from a bottom up perspective.
Mm.
So, what I always say to people, particularly after George Floyd, everybody's running around creating this organization, that organization, nonprofit this, nonprofit that.
Mm-hmm.
That top down has never worked. And I'll go through the history. So, I'm a data science guy. So, anything I say, I like to back it up with facts and data. So, if you look at what has happened since after um, sort of independence in Africa
Yes.
and the Caribbean, right? After independence, what really happened was Black leaders just replaced the white colonial leaders at that point in time, and it was their turn at the trough in regards to you know taking money, corruption, and all that kind of stuff. So the top down approach has never been successful. If you look at life in anything in civilization
Yes.
from the beginning of time to the last 2,000 years, all societies has been created from the bottom up. All civilizations from a hunter gatherer perspective, and I talk about this in my book. We have to understand the human condition, and we have to understand how we are set to survive in harsh environments.
Yes.
Adaptation, Charles Darwin, in terms of adaptation. And if you take a look at it, we search for security. So in more to modern times, security comes from economics, because what is your main thing? Shelter, okay, and food. So in order to get shelter and food, you have to have some form of economics, right? And in order to live the life you want to live, you have to have some form of economics. But all of that economics comes from the bottom up. So you have to create prosperous, wealthy societies, and you have to be involved in entrepreneurship. So if you look at what's happening in India today, India is becoming an economic superpower because they're involved in technology,
They are.
and you're seeing a tremendous amount of wealth being created there, because the and India has more say in the world now because of their massive population and because of their economics, right? So Africa, for example, has an opportunity because of its large mass population, and places in Africa are getting money from foreign investors because there's area in fintech in regards to um, um, digital, fintech, digital finance, because people don't use traditional banks. Everything is moved through communications, your phone. For example, Rwanda, which was in, I think, late '90s, was decimated by genocide. But
Yes.
look at Rwanda today. Rwanda today is building its own tech industry in the area of communications and cell phones, right? So I'm going to give you a little bit, Botswana, which
Yes.
not tiny southern African country. Botswana, a lot of people don't necessarily know the history of Botswana. They may know it that it was the inspiration for Black Panther, but with Botswana, after independence, several years after independence, but Botswana had the highest growth rate continuously in the history of the world, right? So some of the stories up until 1976 or whatnot, and the growth in Botswana is still, moving forward. But what happened with Botswana is they essentially, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but what they did is that they did it themselves.
Mm.
They understood the king at that point in time, made all the right moves, didn't get caught up in the Cold War, communism versus capitalism, whatnot, and they proved, without going into too much detail, people can look it up. They proved that they can do it themselves and they can create good economic growth. And the same thing with Rwanda. So at the end of the day, you know, why these countries, and Rwanda, for example, has gone from genocide, 1 million people killed, to one of the fastest growing economies, if not the fastest growing economy in Africa. Lots of investments coming
Mm-hmm.
in, and investments are coming from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
because they understood the bottom up economics is where how civilizations advance. I mean, I don't want to go too much into it, but at the end of the day, again, it comes down to economics. So from a financial literacy perspective, I think people have to focus on understanding economics, understanding entrepreneurship, understanding how wealth is created. If you can understand that, then you can apply your knowledge to trying to create the economics to advance yourself and your family.
Would you say, because you said this first, right? But would you say that in
Hmm.
probably like every example here that and you
Hmm.
put an emphasis on this, that human condition is sort of the first
Yes,
base of the pyramid?
100%,
I,
hundred
I
percent.
think, and I,
Yeah.
I, I really appreciate you saying that. Why? I guess I get to speak a little bit more as well as about my background. So I'm a social worker,
Hmm.
academically. I went to school, I have
Okay.
my bachelor's in social work. And I
Yeah.
did, 8 months at the neurological hospital of Montreal here, right next to McGill.
Okay.
I
Yep.
worked in the brain tumor program with people who were terminally ill. Honestly,
Okay.
terrible conditions, terrible
Yeah.
diagnoses. You'd be okay 1 second, and the next, you're not able to
Yeah.
speak. You're not able to walk. You're not able to feed yourself anymore. And I think that at that time when I first started, I guess I had a good base of understanding human condition until I was obviously
Mhm.
propelled in this hard and harsh
Yeah.
environment in a very small hospital, by the way, to see how you can go from being healthy to completely diminished by a disease that is literally withering you away. And I think what really took my attention and what I will keep with me forever was seeing how much people were not economically savvy at the time that they were being diagnosed, because they did not have money, for example, to take taxis. They did not
Yep.
have
Yeah.
the financial literacy to get testaments done maybe 5 to 10 years
Yep.
before. And we're talking about people who are in their 40s at the youngest, in their
Yep.
60s at the oldest.
Hmm.
And I think you bringing up human condition, being able to like actually take a look at who we are as people, and we know things are not necessarily going
Yep.
the best for Canada in terms of, you know,
Yeah.
high immigration rates,
Hmm.
more
Yep.
homelessness, a lot of these things that are going on, and the exact same thing in Toronto is going on as well. So to take a good look at human condition from what you're saying here, Perry, is what's going to also help us fundamentally
100%.
understand how to build more strategies and these models to create
Yep.
economical health
Yep.
for us all.
Yep. Yep. No, no, I think, you know, it might, book in applied intelligence, I tried to focus on giving people a fundamental understanding of the human condition and a
Mm-hmm.
fundamental understanding of the conscious and subconscious mind and how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we do comes from a place of how we secure ourselves mentally
Yes.
and the things that we do in order to give ourselves the opportunity. So you made a very good point in the sense that, people don't have money for transportation, or people don't have, good other family support. So let's take a look at the area of mental health, Black mental health. One of the things is that when the area of Black mental health, we don't necessarily take it that serious
We don't.
as a people, and the whole mental health, sort of infrastructure in Canada, as a Black person, you know, we don't advocate for ourselves enough. We don't have necessarily family members who maybe are more educated or have wealth, who can hire lawyers, or who can challenge doctors, or whatnot, who can be good advocates. So at the end of the day, if we don't have good, strong mental health, we can't perform,
No, we cannot.
right? You cannot perform. So mental health, right, is the most important, because if you're not taking care of your mental state, right, even from a spirituality perspective, right, how are you supposed to perform in school, in sports, in work, right? If your mental health is not solid, and if you're not strong, and if you don't have confidence in yourself, and that mental health creates that security, creates that self-esteem, right? Helps you make really good decisions, to understand, if I need this, this is what I have to do. So the human condition, and satisfying some of the needs of the human condition in regards to security, shelter, love, well-being, all those things is fundamental in the human condition. And the human condition is what runs your life. That's your internal
Your compass, everything.
makeup.
Yeah.
That's your compass, right? So if your mental health, which sort of helps you move your compass, is not well, then how are you going to perform and succeed in society? So I really think people need to understand their subconscious and
Mm,
conscious mind in regards to put themselves on solid ground in order to
mm.
perform in the universe.
Wow. That is very powerful, and I appreciate that someone like you, who has extensive knowledge and a lot of connaissance in
Yeah.
AI, in business, is taking
Hmm.
the time to
Hmm.
highlight the importance of Black mental health, of
Oh
well-being,
yeah.
of
Oh yeah.
this basis in psychology that I feel like we often miss in everything that we do,
Yep.
honestly, because this is our walk of
Yep.
life. And this is why when I do workshops, financial
Hmm.
literacy workshops, I take the time to let my audience know that I am, yes, I am a social worker, but for me, it goes hand in hand
Hmm.
with financial
Oh,
literacy. And I
100%.
always let them
100%.
know that, like, the things that I've been, privy and both unfortunate to see, is how much people don't have enough knowledge, or they don't know where to go to get these types of informations.
Yeah, they don't know where to
They
go.
don't know where to
Yeah.
go. And for me, for example, growing up, mental health is not a topic of discussion at any time and place with
No, no.
family,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yet we're suffering. Yet we see
Hmm.
our mothers and our fathers suffering through this hard work and this sort
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
mindset of keep it going, even though you have, like, you're at your knees, essentially.
Yeah.
I think we have to keep really pushing this message, keep conveying this message of mindset of prosperity, because essentially,
Yes.
like you said, if we're looking at the model of bottom to top, right? We
Bottom
are
up.
our own
Yeah.
bottoms, right? We are on our feet. We
100%.
have to stand strong, and from then we
Yeah.
can link
Yeah.
ourselves together to be more
Yeah.
prosperous. So This is very this is big, and I really appreciate again that you mentioned it, because again I see you as a family man. I see you as someone who takes the time to be around family, and you invest in your family as much as you invest in your line of work and your passion. And this also is my
Yeah.
passion, to understand the mind, who we are as people, if before we get into anything else. uh
Yeah, yeah,
s-
100%. You know, everything starts with the mind, and I think you have to critically think. I
Always.
think you have to be skeptical of ideas and be able to think on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, you know, for me, you know, from a social media perspective, social media is great. It's
It
fine. I
is
got no problem with it. But you have to be able to form your own opinions. You have to be able to do your research. A lot of, you know, black people, from a statistical perspective, black people are one of the biggest users of social medias,
huge.
and one of the biggest people who will believe whatever they hear on social media,
Mm.
one of the biggest people to get involved in conspiracy theories and all that. So what ends up happening is that you no longer have a free mind. You have a
Mm.
mind based on, so if you look at it, right? So let's put a little AI into this. So why Facebook is so successful is Facebook builds what they call cognitive algorithms. So if, for example, you put something on Facebook with a picture of something funny, or you know, at a party, hey, hang with friends, or whatever it is, you get 1,000 likes. But if you put a picture, if you put something that's serious, that's thought
Yes.
provoking, that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to think, you won't get anything, because what people don't understand, the cognitive algorithms that Facebook is building via AI, okay, it gathers data on you,
Mm.
okay, and it steers you in the direction that, you know, that it wants you to, because from an advertising perspective, this is, you know, how they make their money. So you you are not, you have to be very cognizant of the fact that you can use social media, of course, but you have to be cognizant of the fact that you need to be an independent thinker. If you see something on Facebook, just somebody else just wrote it, doesn't mean it's true or not. So
Yep.
you have to take the time. You have to take the time to do your own research and be skeptical to figure out if it's true before you make a decision. But Facebook preys on the fact that humans are lazy, not just black people or whatnot, but humans are
People in general.
lazy
Yeah.
and they won't go the extra mile. So that's how they capture people, right?
Mm.
So I just think the most important thing is to focus on your mind. And if you focus on your mind is your superpower. You
Always.
can do anything if you build your mind, if you build your knowledge, okay, you can achieve anything. And and by acquiring knowledge and focus on your knowledge, it also builds your happiness. It also builds your strong mental health, because I wrote an article called authentic happiness. And really what I said, happiness is not a human right. Happiness is not automatic. Happiness has to be worked for based on how you run your life,
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right? And that's how you create happiness. You don't, people, oh, I want to be happy. No. Well, what are you doing to make yourself happy? You got to do work. If you sit there and don't do anything all day and say I'm not happy, well, what have you done? It's not a right, right? Everything you do in life has to be worked for, right? And if you don't understand your environment, and if you don't understand the power that your mind has, because everything starts from the mind,
Everything.
right? The world is made from the mind. So it is up to you to create your own world and go after your own thing, but it all comes back to mindset and a strong mental base, and your mental well-being is significant in regards to achieving what you want to achieve in life.
You're absolutely correct. I have these conversations with my friends all the time. You know, I'm turning 26 in 2 weeks. And
Yeah. My daughter's age.
The daughter's age
I'm
as well.
old.
Yeah. Yeah, late 90s. We're late 90s babies, but we're
Yeah,
growing
yeah,
up. You
yeah,
know, I never thought that I'd
yeah,
turn 26, but here I am. So this it's
yeah.
important to have these conversations, especially as Black people, about what happiness looks like for us, right? What does it look
Yes,
like for us?
yes.
And again, here to go back on this mindset thing, I'm the type of person where I am very happy, but I am not always happy. I work for my happiness as much as I work for a lot of
100%.
other things. And most of the time, like you said, if your mind is not doing okay, you are not physically doing okay either.
No,
It's a
no,
work in
no.
progress. It's something that you have to continuously remind yourself of. It's like doing math. You have
Yeah,
to really work at it, put the equations together. Okay, I know if I wake up
100%.
at this time, if I eat this certain thing, if I go out with this certain person, I will feel happy. If I stay in
Yeah.
bed all day, if I eat crappy food, I will be unhappy. So it's really it's like math. It's really like math.
No, it is like math. And I'm going to touch on what you're saying about math because for me, I like to say I'm a math guy. And what you're saying is goes back to Immanuel Kant, 17th century mathematician, and 17th century 16. I can't necessarily remember, but he was a philosopher and mathematician, and he wrote his famous work was the Critique of Reason,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the day, the great philosophers were all mathematicians too. So if you look at Kant, if you look at Descartes, right? Descartes, what did Descartes say? I think, therefore I am.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no doubt that you exist. And then Bertrand Russell, was a mathematician, philosopher. But what you said there is, if you can think mathematically, your brain and your suffering in the universe is going to go down, because what you just said is fundamentally, I think, quantitative thinking,
Mm-hmm.
or what I applied intelligence thinking. That's what you just said. So what you just said is that if you think about mathematically, so I want to do, I want to have, a nice house, or I want to do this, or I got to put the work in. So if I
Absolutely.
do this, if I do X, I can get Y.
Mm-hmm.
So I always use calculus because it's one of my favorite maths, because calculus explains the universe. And what calculus does, it tells you how to get from here to there. And how to get from here to there, sort of like differential equation, but I'm not going to go into that. But what I'm going to say, think about it. How to get from here, from point A to point B, is a series of proofs. So if I want to go downtown, I take this street and I hang a left and I hang a right. Oh, okay, I'm continuing to go in the direction. So what you're doing a calculus, right? In terms to try to figure out how to get what you want in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you said, okay, well, if I want to achieve something financially, okay, I have to have an equation in my head on how to do it.
Absolutely.
So what is your personal equation? So for you, okay, you went to school, you got your degree, you're in social work, you're doing great things on the podcast. And by the way, your voice is absolutely perfect for this.
Thank
It
you
is
very
it is
much.
it is absolutely
I
perfect
appreciate
for
that.
this. I mean, stick with this. Your whole demeanor is wonderful.
I appreciate it.
But you've calculated that if I need to do these things, here's what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing the math.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do the math. And if you think mathematically, you're going to have less stress. Because if you don't think mathematically, you're going to be, oh my God, you're going to procrastinate, you're going to have emotion. But it's like, okay, if I want this, I want this, and I want this, then I got to do this, I got to do this, I do this. And if I do that, and I do it well, it all adds up to X. And if you think like that, you're going to achieve a lot more in life than just saying, "Oh, I want to do something," and then nothing's happening in your life, and you're just going to complain. So I tell people, I tell my kids, always think mathematically. Whenever you have a problem, do the math. Do the math in
Yeah.
your head and understand X, Y, Z. If I do this, and your life will be, in my view, a lot smoother, a lot less stress, and you will achieve a hell of a lot more. And from a financial literacy perspective,
Tie back all
it
in.
is
Yeah.
that fundamental. It is that
Mm-hmm.
fundamental, right? Fundamental. So if you need to understand that you want to retire well, or you want to be able to save for a house or whatnot, the basis of mathematical thinking would allow you to move easier into saying, okay, I got to figure out how much money I need to save. So you can go online and you can find a tool. Well, how much money do I need for a down payment? You just go into a calculator and you say, okay, the bank says I need, 50,000 for a down payment. You put that 50,000 down for payment. So I need to borrow another 400,000. So if I need to borrow another 400,000, okay, I got to go to the bank. So if I got to go to the bank, what's the interest rate? So you can plug that into the calculator. There are all these tools available. And in order to qualify, how much money do I have to make? Okay, I qualify. So very simple. You're doing the math. Okay, I need to make X amount of dollars. Click, check.
Yeah.
I need to borrow 400,000. Check. I need to have a deposit of 500,000. Check. Throw that into the calculator. It'll pump it out for you, and you know what your mortgage payments are. But without a strong fundamental mindset and a mathematical mind
Very hard to
base,
achieve.
you may very hard to achieve.
Very hard to achieve.
So there you go. You finished that thought for me. Perfect.
Very, very hard to achieve. I guess, again, here to make it personal and for people who understand my walk of life, I still live with my parents, for example, and I don't know if your daughter still lives with
Yeah.
you or has moved out, but I'm at a point in my life where, quarter of age, I'm thinking about, should I move out? Should I venture off completely? Should I live in another country? And all of these questions are still in mind, but I know exactly what kind of life I want to lead. I'm very square, very Cartesian as a type of individual. So I'm able to project quite, not easily, but in a sense that, like, if I know what I want, I know what building blocks will have to be set where exactly so that I can make sure I can pick that apple from the branch, right? And I am lucky. Not a lot of people are in this position where both my parents are well and alive, in health. They're doing great. They built a life for themselves where I'm able to still live under their roof without contributing much. And I should. And I think this is a conversation that we have to have a little bit more with our generation, with our people, where our parents put a lot into us, and sometimes we don't see it. But as we grow up, we become more eye open to the amount of eye open to that because it's a lot of sacrifices. It's a lot of sacrifices, and we are in positions where we don't have to make as many sacrifices as they did. And taking that opportunity is one in a lifetime thing if you can be there, if your parents have set that up for you. So I'm at a place where I'm racking up as much money as I possibly can. I'm
100%
learning.
save that,
I'm learning from them as much as I can and taking advantage of their livelihood and their graces and everything that they're still
100%.
able to give me. And this is also, again, to tie it back all into financial literacy. Sometimes financial literacy is family. Sometimes financial literacy is staying home until a little bit longer. Sometimes it's not getting married at 30. Culturally speaking, we have to also look at financial literacy through those lenses to get a better understanding of who we are. It really does start from us. And this is why I feel so lucky that my background is in social work, because I get to look at behaviors. Behaviors really determine how we handle money, how we handle like our outlook on life. And then we can go from there.
100%.
Really, I'm a really core type of individual when it comes to that. And I think, not to get preachy or life coachy, right? Just in a sense of understanding who you are and understanding where you come from is really the equation of where you're gonna be able to project yourself and work yourself towards.
I agree 100%.
So my next question for you, Perry, is why do we need Black people in AI? Why is it important to have people?
Question.
To have people, us.
Yeah.
Because I remember this particular thing. I think this was a research or a documentary that was made in London. I think it had to do with security cameras that they had set up in parts of streets. And a lot of different Black people were getting apprehended because they looked like another Black person. Right? I can't remember the name of the documentary. I saw this go on Twitter. And again, here, little bracket space in the sense that Twitter now has this really interesting thing where when a tweet will be put out or a video or whatever kind of content, there will be a fact check right under it. And sometimes it can be as little as someone getting punched in the face and they write this person was punched in the face because they didn't give their son ice cream or they're being racist. And then the fact check tells you, this is not actually what happened. What actually happened was XXX. And then you understand that what you're seeing is not really what's essentially happening. It's not what you really are getting. And again,
Yep.
this is the critical thinking. This is the whole research thing that I would say 2 years ago I wasn't doing, but now I'm
Hmm.
doing way more because it's so easy to feed into things that are false. It's
Yep.
so easy to
Yep.
feed into
No.
things that are false. So yes. So
Yeah.
again, why is it
100%.
important to have Black people in AI?
Yeah. AI is having Black people um, is so critical in AI
Mm-hmm.
because I think what a lot of people don't understand about AI is not magic, right? AI is not intelligent, right?
Right.
It's programmed,
Right.
right?
Right.
Somebody has to program the damn thing, right? So what people don't understand is that the type of things that are out in AI or what people deem as important is a function of who is programming
Right.
the technology, who's writing the codes, who are building the large language models, right? And if it's some blonde surfer dude in California, he's gonna input what's important to
To
him.
him.
Not that he's racist or whatnot. He's gonna input it. And what you have in AI is you have a lot of young white males,
Yes.
okay, influence the universe,
There you go.
right? And people don't understand that they decide what's important. So if you're not participating in the technology, you have no say. So for me, but with our stuff and our AI or what we're building, my entire team is Black. My chief my chief engineer is Black. My head of software is Black.
Bingo. Let's go.
I have a Black woman who is she's a PhD in intellectual property and law, right? Serious. I have a young man, a young man with a law degree and from Princeton. He does a lot of writing. Um, so my whole team is Black. So for me, when we're writing our code or whatnot, our biases get in there. It's only natural. So when you write in your code or you're putting things in there, your biases are going to be reflected. So if a Black person is doing it, it will avoid a lot of the stereotypes and a lot of the stupid stuff that's in AI. But if you're not at the table, if you don't own companies in technology,
Yes, sir.
you have no say. So for example, I'm gonna give you a quick example. Um, there's multiples of these tests, but you put into Chat GPT or something,
Mm.
give me an example of a CEO. The number one CEO that comes up is Elon Musk.
Yes.
That's because Elon Musk dominates the media and there's so much data in there. But the key is the dominating is always a white guy. Okay? Always a white guy.
Always a white guy.
Now, it's sad, but if you put up something um, in the social welfare area, you're gonna find Blacks and Latinos,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you put something in the area of crime and violence, they're gonna show a Black person.
They are.
Okay, that's because somebody actually has to write this. So if you are not involved in writing the applications, writing the software, doing engineering, you cannot put your say and you cannot have a voice in society. And what ends up happening, okay, the white supremacy,
Mm-hmm.
narrative takes over because everything is being controlled by a group of people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what ends up happening is if we adhere to that, what they say. A friend of mine keeps telling me this is that in order for white supremacy to succeed, Black people have to buy into it, right? In order for it to succeed,
And boy, do we buy
right?
into it
It's as
still.
simple as that. Yeah, we buy
We
into white
buy into
supremacy.
it.
We
Yes.
do. We buy into it, and we buy. We
We
buy.
buy.
We
Buy.
buy
Large
it, right?
consumers. Large
Right?
consumers.
We're all bingo. We are consumers. We are consumers of technology. We're not owners and we're not developers of technology.
Mm-hmm.
So we have no say. Our lives are being controlled by the people who are writing technology.
Yes.
And for me, I'm not going to let that happen, right? I'm going to control my own world. I'm going to control my own universe. I'm going to create opportunities for my kids, my friends,
Mm-hmm.
whoever. Okay, but this is why I'm in AI. AI is revolutionizing the world. It's pretty much controlling everything. Technologies everywhere,
It's everything.
right?
It's everything. And
Yeah. So I want to have a say. I want to have a say.
this honestly answers the next question that I had was, what do we stand to gain or lose as a people when it comes to AI? And I think you already said it here. What we stand to gain is definitely having more Black people in these sectors
Correct.
programming these different things.
Correct.
And what we stand to lose is because
Exactly.
we're big consumers, and if we keep buying into what white people are creating, because it is a subjective experience. It is a very subjective
Yes.
experience. I mean,
Yes.
we can look at science as being
Yes.
definitely objective, right? 2 + 2 is 4, and we can predict this over and over and over and over again. It's really objective. But when we look at technology, it is way more subjective. It's really, it comes to personal
100%.
usage, and most of the time when we're looking at
100%.
technology, sometimes it's in a solution base. Someone will have a question, will have a problem, and they answer it through their experiences, but it's sold to the masses. So it
It
could
is.
work for one person, but it won't work for another. And that's why technology, again, there's kind of like this flow towards a specific population versus another. So we have to be
It's
very
about
wary of that.
control.
It's about control. We have to be very, very
Yeah.
wary of how we use technology. And this next question was, what blind spots are we missing that AI can help with, or even is a
Yeah.
detriment to us?
I think what we shouldn't do is we shouldn't fear AI. I
Right.
think what we should
Mm,
do is we should embrace it, go after it, and allow it to empower us.
mm,
Don't run from it,
mm.
because you can't run from technology,
We
right?
can't.
You have to go. You can't, right? So you can't. So we should embrace it and use it and be part of the development of it to see what it can do for us. That's the bottom up empowerment. And whether we create businesses that create wealth, we use AI in our own interests. So, for example, why do you think Elon Musk, richest man in the world, or maybe second or third, I don't know, why do you think he bought Twitter? He bought Twitter because he has enough money. He bought Twitter because he wants his voice heard, and he wants his right wing agenda
Yeah.
heard. So he has so much noise out there, so much volume out there,
Mm,
influence out there, because he uses his wealth, his billions, right, in order to buy Twitter, because it's about controlling the narrative. So the key is, unless you own something, unless you're involved, unless you're creating wealth, particular in technology, the danger with AI, right, is that for Black people is if they don't pay attention to it. AI is
okay.
great. It's going to help me build. For me, I'm looking to build a $1 billion business from a software perspective, and
Mm,
I think we're going to do it, right. So, but I understand if I do that, I'm going to have a lot of power. I'm going to have a lot of influence,
right.
and how I choose. So at that point in time, if I have a lot of power and if I have millions to give away, then I'll be giving away to Black mental health initiatives. I'm going to giving away to programs that help kids with education so they can get into the best universities.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to empower from the bottom up young people, and particularly on the mental health side, so they can thrive in the universe. But I can't. I can do that because, hey, here's $100 million, right? I can't do that if I don't have any wealth, right? And that's how the world works. So we forget. We can think about you know organizations and all of these from the top down, but the top down doesn't can't can't do it. Fundamentally, if wealth is created and the universe is created and great civilizations are created through economics and entrepreneurship, all of that comes from the bottom up.
Okay.
No country has created success top down through organizations or whatnot. Now, not that organizations or nonprofit organizations are bad, but they fill a role in doing things like what you're doing, in creating, financial
Platforms. Yeah.
literacy, and all those things. Those are all great, but it's not a creator of wealth. But by you giving it awareness,
Right.
hopefully, people listen to this podcast and what the work that you're doing will inspire people to say, hey, I should do this. I should do it this way, and that's where your value that's where your value is done. So you are created, you're providing a service by allowing people to have having me today, having conversations and explaining things, and hopefully somebody will pick something up from
And
here
use
and
it.
move on with their life and succeed and use it. Right.
Yes.
So that's a great service. But fundamentally, we have to, and they will apply what they've heard here to their own lives, and that's where your service is well needed in society from Black people from that perspective.
I have to be honest and say that when
Mhm.
ChatGPT came out, I was highly skeptical of what
Yeah,
it was, and
continue to be highly
I'm
skeptical.
very highly skeptical.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
use it until honestly a couple months ago. And I
yeah.
was having my friends telling me how, useful and helpful and quick it is, and I was like, I want to think for myself and write my own emails. And but essentially,
Yeah,
it was kind of I don't want to say making me slower, because I do have a lot of work
it
to
does make
do.
you slower.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. It does make me. It made me slower in the amount of work I was able to produce. And then when I used it for the first time, I was like, oh my god, this is magical. This is saving me so much
Hmm.
time. I can be way more
Yeah,
efficient. I can double
yeah.
my work. I can double my emails. I can really be at the level that I want to be without draining myself just because I'm thinking
Hmm.
about what smarter word to use and replace and all of
Yeah,
that jazz,
yeah.
right?
From that perspective, it helps.
From
Yeah.
that perspective, right? And I think, again, as people as well, like if we look at, anyways, I always think about my parents and African people in general. We're very skeptical people. Very skeptical. My
Yeah,
dad did not start
yeah.
investing until honestly very recently, and he's a 65-year-old man. He's a 65-year-old
Yeah,
man. So
yeah, yeah.
it's a lot of skepticism is definitely advantageous, but when it's too far and when it's creating obstacles and challenges that you don't necessarily need, that's when you have to kind of like, okay, what can I really pull from this? And I use this example with
Correct.
ChatGPT because it really, really helped. There are obviously some parts that I'm still kind of looking at and seeing how it's really contributing to my world, if anything, before I delve in. But seniors are a people who are generally skeptical and are still learning and grappling with using cell phones and technology and all of that.
Yeah,
I have my
yeah.
dad knocking at my door sometimes when I'm still asleep, just to tell me just to ask me how to put WhatsApp back because he deleted it, right? So my
Yeah,
my,
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
last question as we wrap up the
Hmm.
interview is,
Hmm.
again, this is the Seniors and Money
Hmm.
podcast, so we want to tie it back again to seniors.
Sure, sure.
How can
Mm.
AI, we talk about financial literacy, how can AI, financial literacy, tech, finance, all of this, how can it be of help to seniors? Seniors who are skeptical, seniors who are still dealing with,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
magic of
yeah,
tech.
yeah. So, my mother-in-law was somebody who was a senior who always used technology.
Mm-hmm.
She did her banking online.
Mm-hmm.
She was a little techie for techie grandma, right? So what I would say is, don't be afraid to use technology. Don't be afraid to do research online.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're using ChatGPT, for example, use it to get from. It's very important of how you use the technology.
Yeah.
So an issue with ChatGPT, if you're doing it to try to learn and to try to, let's say you're doing it to write an essay or something, you don't know what the sources are, so you don't know if it's true or not,
Right.
right? And what happened? The big problem with ChatGPT, just makes stuff up. So you don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's real or not,
Yeah.
right? And that's the problem they call hallucination. It's an infinite loop of hallucination. So
Oh.
you may you may have the wrong thing and you don't know. But from a perspective of a senior using it, you can use it by just maybe asking it simple questions. What's a GIC? What's a mutual fund? How much do I need to invest to get this much income? If you just ask it simple questions, it'll spit out answers that, that's going to be factual or whatnot. So they can use it to just get some general knowledge questions in order for them to about retirement or about anything. If they have some, maybe some health questions or whatnot,
Right.
I recommend you still use your doctor. But you can get some information, but check your sources, and you got to do a little bit more work. So you know from a finance perspective, they can use technology to get information and insight.
Insight.
That's the key.
Keyword, yeah.
Get insight. Yeah, the information and the data alone is useless if you can't turn that data and information into insight. So if you use that data to gather insight, or once you get that insight, then you can use the insight, or you can apply that insight to whatever problem you're trying to solve.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Whether it's a senior in finance or whatnot. So the key is in technology, particular intelligent technology, is to use it to gather insight. And that's really the key. It's not a magic tool, it's not a magic one, but if you can use it efficiently in your own best interest to gather the insight you need to help you make the best decisions possible, then, at the end of the day, that's how you should use technology.
Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Perry. I
no
think
problem.
I don't want to be
Anytime.
discriminatory, but I think this has been my favorite episode so far.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it's your favorite episode.
Yes, because you're very insightful. You're very, very insightful, and you
Thank
have
you.
a vast amount of knowledge. And I think
Yeah,
you
I
seem,
read a lot.
you
I
read a
gotta tell
lot.
you.
You read a lot. I feel like you're just gonna keep piling even more knowledge that you're gonna have to eventually spit out. So I
Yeah,
hope that we can have you back on as
yeah,
a guest and explore something
sure,
different.
sure.
Are there any
Yeah.
last things that you'd like to say about all that we discussed? Something that you kind of like
No,
your mantra?
no, I appreciate the time you spent. It was a great interview. I enjoyed it. I would say if people want to
Yeah, where
learn a
to
little
find
bit
you?
more, yeah, you can go to the Medium, Perry Douglas. The Medium. I write on the Medium, and you can go there. All my articles are there. I think I have close to 100 articles now. You can find everything from AI.
Hmm.
Uh, I've written a lot on Christianity, mental health, philosophy. You can go to the Medium. Just search Perry Douglas Medium, and you
Yes.
can see my articles. And also, you can go to Amazon, and some shameless self promotion here, and you can pick up my book, Applied Intelligence: A Renaissance in New Thinking for Caribbean Prosperity in the 21st Century. It's available on Amazon, so you can pick up the book and read that. I have another book coming out. It's a lot slower because every time I finished it, but I keep going back to
Revisit it. Yeah.
that book. So yeah, so knowledge is key, and the more you read, the more you learn, the smarter you get, and the more happiness you will find in the universe. So I want to say thank you very much. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. I think this is one of my I think you set a very good tone. I'm usually a little bit of a passionate guy, but you've kept me in a nice calm mode. so so you're really great at what you do, and I appreciate it. And keep doing it because you're really good at what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm very inspired by all that you've said and you've shared. And like I said again, this is someone who has a lot of passions and hobbies in different places. I mean, writing on Christianity, philosophy are things that
Yeah,
take time and take
yeah,
understanding and investment in what you are putting into your brain. So please, audience, take the time and I'll be making sure to put everything in the description
sure.
when this comes out on YouTube to make sure that it's accessible and easy to
Yep,
find. Once
yep.
more, thank you for your time as well, Perry. This has been
Thank you.
great. Have yourself a wonderful day. And when this
You
comes
too.
out,
All the
you'll be
best.
the first to be aware.
Take care.